Hi, everyone, and welcome to Free Training Thursdays with Abacus Next. I am pleased to introduce Sam Saab, founder and product EVP for ResultsCRM, and he will be taking you through ad hoc reporting today. With that, Sam, I give you the attendees.
Natalie, thank you so much for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being on the call. Natalie, please confirm that the results screen will show up next. So I'm going to go ahead and dismiss the starting slide. Are you able to see a login screen?
I see it.
Awesome. All right, we're live, and this is being recorded, so it will be on our webinar area of the website at a later time. All right, so today what we're going to be covering is with you is the ad hoc reporting. So first, let's get into the results system. The results system I'll be using today is version 18, which is the currently shipping version of the results product. So let's talk about ad hoc reports and what they are. So as you know, Results has multiple modules. If you click on the blue area up here, the single button, this is a quick access to every single module within the Results system. So we have data around contacts, we have data around activities. Your activities, of course, can be linked to contacts, they can be linked to projects, and sales opportunities. We have sales opportunities, we have codes data, sales orders, service orders, as well as projects. And then invoices and payments, of course. So the point is that within your company, you might not be using every single module, but these are the various modules we have. And for each of those, we have two types of reports built in. We have the standard reports, which are Crystal reports based, is the engine we use for that. And we have what we call ad hoc reports. By definition, an ad hoc report is a report you can build on the fly. It's a simple report. It's a one-line report, but you can build on the fly based on any selected fields that you would like to have and any filter you would include, regardless whether we design that in the system or not. So it's just free-form reporting effectively. So let's go take a quick look. What I'm going to do is just to give you a full flavor of that. I'll spend the majority of the session within the context module, but then we'll just pick another module and go do an ad hoc report from that module too, just to give you the feel and the comfort that you can do this from any module, any data management center. So let's start with contacts, manage, and now you are in what we call the DMCs, the contacts Data Management Center in this case. DMC stands for the Data Management Center. In this case, we're focusing on the contact management side of the house. So if you'll notice on the top of the screen, there's the reports button. If you just always clicked on the reports button or access the reports directly from here, then you typically are dealing with just the regular reports. But if you engage the dropdown, which is right next to the reports, this tiny dropdown here, you'll see that you actually can select between standard reports and ad hoc reports. Also from your menu itself, you can get your standard reports or various types of standard reports here. This is your ad hoc reports. It's accessible within that section also. So let's take first a quick look at what a typical standard report is per module. So these are your pre-designed reports that come with the system. They are typically coded with a two-letter code and a number so that you can reference and request report 105, a CR 105, as compared to a financial or summary report. And then whatever you request out of here, let's say you look at CR 105, double click on that, you will see the standard report, which is designed by Crystal Reports, and it's a formal report as part of your standard reports, right? Just one of many. By the way, if you do not have security rights within your system for financial data, then those CF stands for Contact Financial. So these CF reports will not be accessible to you because you don't have the security rights to get to them because you'll see financial data there. So everyone will get the ability to get to the labels. CLs are for labels, reports. Summary reports are down here, CS for summary, but your financials are selective. Okay, that's your standard reports. Let's go go into the reports, ad hoc reports, and drill into that and understand it better. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time in here. So let's go ahead and expand that screen so you can see more of it. All right, your screen is split into two areas on the right side. So here's the overall design of the report. Since the purpose of an ad hoc report is to allow you to select any field or set of fields you want, and then put any condition on them that you want, then we're going to need to give you three things. We're going to give you the list of fields up here. So that would be where you would select them from. On the right side, the top section is where you would list the fields that you want to include on the report. And on the bottom right would be where you would include the condition, the filter, if you want to apply one. If you don't apply a filter, that means you're requesting all the data from all the full database. Otherwise, you can filter down by the condition, and you will put the condition down here. So let's start with something simple and then build up on it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a report simply showing the name of the customer, the display name of the customer, as well as, let's say, the city and state. Let's go ahead and do that. This is your list of contact data. So you click on the plus sign, and that will then list all the fields available to you within that table itself. By the way, there are other tables you can report on directly from the contact list. This is a little bit more advanced. We'll get to that in a minute, but let's at least first capture the basics. So I open up the list of fields to select from within the contact table itself. And as we suggested, we're going to select the display name. So I move my cursor down to that, select that field. I can double click on it, and that will move it directly to the right side. I can also click on it and drag it to either the top or the bottom section based on what I want to do with it. In this case, I want it to be displayed, so I'm moving it by double clicking on it or moving it to the top right area to have it included in the output. Let's do the same thing with city name. So we're going to go to the city name, and this time we're going to select it and drag it. Instead of double click on it, I dragged it manually and placed it in the right area. And now on the state, because the state is actually a lookup table, you can really select two things. You can either select the code itself, the 2-character code, or the actual state name if you want to. So in this case, we'll double click on the state code, and now we have that field. So let's keep it simple. We just selected 3 fields. We did not put a condition yet, so all the records will come back. And now what we can do is we can go to the toolbar, which has all the options available to you. If you're not sure which one does what, which button does what, you can put your cursor on it. And the one I'm interested in is this exclamation point, as in exciting to see the run the query and gets the results of the report itself. So in this case, by selecting that button, I got the records coming back, which is showing 3 columns: the display name, the city, and the state. And then all the records in the system because I didn't filter anything. Notice there's no order because I didn't specify, no order to the list, so I did not specify alphabetic listing, for example. We'll change all of those together. Notice the fields were left as is, the way they are listed, and kind of explanatory. The field name has further explanation around what it represents. And you might not need that in the report. So we're going to tweak that slightly right now. So let's say this state code, instead of just having all this explanation on it and too much in the column header, I'm going to double click on this column up here, and I'm going to change the actual label on that column to just say state. You don't even need the code. You're going to see that it's a 2-character code anyway. So when you I made the change, clicked OK. If I run that same ad hoc report one more time, you'll notice how much cleaner the top column or the column header is for that column. Let's go ahead and implement one other change here. How about we make this list alphabetical? All right, so we're going to go now to the display name. We want to do something with it, so we will double click on it and see what our options are. And one of our options up here is to sort this ascending. So alphabetical A to Z, click OK. By the way, the column, instead of each time I run this, I'm going to need to widen this because it's barely wide enough for all the names to display. How about we actually tell the system to do that for us? How about we make this 2.5 inches wide by default whenever that column runs? Whenever the report runs and the column is displayed. Excuse me. So if you now look at this enhanced report based on the couple of changes we made, state is just the column header. This is now listed alphabetically. It's already wider, so I don't have to manually widen it each time, and that's the results of your report. So one thing to note about reports, there's, in addition to showing them on the screen from which you can print them, of course, you're also able to save them to an external file. So this is like exporting data. See this button up here called Save to File? That means you can, instead of just showing them by pressing this button to run the query to the screen, we can press this button and say we want to send those out, and in which format. You can choose between tab delimited, comma delimited. Sometimes these are referred to as CSV file, comma separated or comma delimited file, and fixed width. I always recommend that when you export the data to a file that you also check this box so the column headers will go along with the data. The default is not to include that. You just get the raw data in there in case you're going to import it into another system. You don't want the label or column headers to be imported maybe, but generally by having the column headers included, that allows you to remember what the column has in it, especially when you're seeing, let's say you requested all 4 phone numbers. It would be helpful to have the column headers to know which one is the mobile phone versus the work phone. All right, if you click OK right now, the system is going to ask you what file and where do you want to place that file. Let's go ahead and put that into an area that we can retrieve it. We'll put it in the results data under the export, and this is AdHoc sample. And today is the 11th, I believe. Yes, it is, 2018. All right, so we'll show you that file in a minute, and we'll let you know that it's finished writing it. One more thing to note, let's say this is something that we might want to run a couple of times in the future. So it's instead of having to redo all the steps we just did, how about we save it under a specific name? So we can go to a save and basically refer to this as you can put anything that you want in here that will help you remember what this was about. Okay, so display name listing with the city and state that were included, and we're just going to save that. So what does that really mean right now by saving it? If I exit this ad hoc report and I come back in, or I have somebody on the team do this, I can go to the ad hoc reports, open up ad hoc reports. Instead of rebuilding it from scratch, I can go to this open button. This is the icon for opening the existing list. And one of the things I'm going to see up here is the one that we just built and saved together a few minutes ago, display name listing with city and state. If I open that, everything will come back and get retrieved exactly the way it was stored and updated. It was stored last time it was updated. And if I run that to the screen, it's the same report, alphabetically listed with the 3 columns, and we can proceed to retrieve that as or save that as an external file. Okay, let's go take a look at that text file that we created together. So let's go to File Explorer. And we're just going to navigate down to the C drive. And we were on the results data. And within the export folder, we placed a file called AdHoc sample. And if you look at this one, you're going to see that we kept it by the default as a tab delimited. So even though it might not look obvious, this is how tabs look. So notice when I move my cursor from one area to another, this is just going to jump all the way to the C because that's actually a tab character between them. And the default for tabs is usually 8, actually 1 inch, I believe, on this one. This is just File Explorer. So this is exactly what it needs to be. I could take this file and pull it into Excel or any other format that accepts ad hoc reports. I mean, tab delimited or comma delimited text files, depending on how you save it directly from here, whatever you choose. I chose tab. It could have been comma delimited, could have been fixed delimited, fixed width. Okay, so at this point, we chose fields, and we brought in that information, put it on a report, and now we're going to go ahead and expand on this, make it a little bit more advanced, and then I'm going to go and show you filters, okay? So let's say for this list, you also would like me to show next to their name all their invoices. Crazy idea, but maybe we can make it work. So you'll notice right now, these here are a listing of all the different tables that are connected to a contact record. This should not surprise you, by the way. This is consistent with the full design of the results system. The whole point is that all the work, this is a relationship management system, so you're doing all the work with a certain entity, and these are all the things that you can tie to the entity, the activities that were interactions with them, the documents you stored for them, the payments you received from them, the invoices, the invoice line items. Obviously, when you're looking at invoice data, the assumption is you're authorized to see invoice data. This also, by the way, is very consistent with what you would see up here. If you open up a contact record, the reason you're seeing all those tables is these are all, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm not going too quickly for you. So when I open up the profile, I'm able to scroll down through the different tabs that are available. These are all the linked tables here, but I can also see them on the far left-hand side. And remember, in results, especially in the latest version of results, version 17.3.4 and version 18, you now can select and unselect the various tabs that you are interested in seeing or not seeing or have access to or not have access to based on the type of work you do within the company. Let's say I select them all those records, all those tabs are there. That means I can report on project data, I can report on invoice data, I can report on line item details for the invoices. Your invoices are here, your payments are here, your documents are here. So this is all the connected data. Because all this data is connected in the system, when you go to ad hoc reports, you can pull in any of that data you wish. Ad hoc reports, remember, though, are simple reports, so they're just a one-liner. But I'm going to also introduce something else that's important for you to be aware of. When we listed all the records, display name with city. So when let's maximize the screen and let's run this report. Okay, so when you're looking at this report, you're going to get all the records in the system because I didn't filter anything. So all this data is here. Now, let's say, as we suggested, we're going to also add to this invoice data. So I'm going to go to the invoice section. This opens it up, and now it shows me all the fields available to me on the invoices. So let's keep it simple. We're going to get the invoice number. We're going to get the invoice date. And notice all I'm doing, because I'm interested in the field, I go to that field, double-click on it, and it pops up on the right side here. Let's say I also wanted the invoice amount and the balance due. So the invoice total is right here, and the balance due is right here. So I selected all the key values for the invoices for those that have invoices. Some of them might not. And then when I select run this report, first the system is going to warn you that there's a lot of data there. Are you sure you want to retrieve that? Continue. We're going to say yes. Now, if you expand the width of this report, you'll see that not only does it have the same information it had before, display name, city, and state, but for any of those that actually had invoices. So notice ABC Corp did not have an invoice or any invoice in the system. Adam Candy Shop had two. So notice, because of the nature of this ad hoc report, you asked for all the invoices on the account, so it had to show you invoice both 5100 as well as 5138. And so in a case like this, you're going to end up having the initial information repeat itself, because it has to display every single invoice. Stephen Anderson has 3 invoices. Christina has 3 invoices. Mike Balla quite a bit more, right? So this is the way the data is looking based on the information that we requested and brought in. Now, if I close this, let's say I decided to add one more field up here, and that field would be the total payments received. I can double click on that, and that will come over to the right side. Now, I don't like the order of this anymore. I really would like to see the invoice total, the payments, and then the balance due. Wouldn't that make more sense? So look what you can do here. You can actually put your cursor on any column or any field that you're going to be reporting on. You see those up and down arrows? Click on an up arrow, and it moved it up there for you. Yeah, you can walk it all the way across, walk it all the way down. So this is the way for you to, instead of having to cancel what you brought in and then bring them in the right order, you can actually resequence them directly. And when you run the report, that's exactly what's going to be displayed on the screen. Let's maximize this quickly. So you got the invoice total. The payment is exactly, and that's why it's 0. Now, obviously, this can use a lot of cleanup. So you notice that it's ugly because it's just raw data. So what you can do back here is you can come in and say the invoice total why don't we format this to be currency, for example. You can also limit the number of digits after decimal. So let's say you're just going to do two of those. You're going to remove the leading zeros. And so when you run that report, it doesn't look as horrendous as before because it looks a little bit, it does look as horrendous as before. Okay, there must be a formatting thing on this one, but the bottom line is you should be able to request this invoice total, payment total to be a currency, and as such, it will not have the 4 decimal at the end. It will look cleaner on the screen. This same thing with the date. The date by default within the results system is always date and time. That's how they're stored in SQL on the SQL database that we use. And so you can also format this as you need it to look based on using the different formatting options available to you within this display. The other thing that we talked about earlier is being able to include filter conditions for this. Let's say you only want to report on clients that are in the state of Virginia. I'm going to give you a simple one and a more complex one. Let's first go and filter this based on the contact level data. So I'm going to go to the state. I'm going to pull in the state code, and this time we're going to basically bring it in down to this area where we're going to be able to filter on it. And because the field is up here within the filter condition section, I'm going to open this up like that. And when you double click on that, it's going to allow you to decide on the condition, equal or not equal or greater than. And I'm going to select the drop down. And in this case, we're going to say just for Virginia. So this is only going to be custom or records. We did not specify customers as a contact type. And when you would run this, only records in the state of Virginia will be included, and all the data on those will also be included. So there is quite a bit less accounts and the same number of data and the invoices on the accounts. So when you're looking at something like this, you're going to be able to see the name of the account and the numbers. Okay, so in this case, that's the filter condition with the state of Virginia. So if you now want to save this, notice what a couple of things that are important. If you just simply click on this, it will override the previous version with all the additional things we've done over here. One thing that to note, though, is that if you make any change to the description, it will actually leave the original unchanged. And then it will allow you to have an extra copy of the version with the changes that you have. Unless you click rename, rename then allows you to change it, and it will overwrite the original. So in this case, we're going to say plus invoice info in Virginia. And in this case, if we exit and come back in and take a look at the ad hoc reports, you're going to see two versions of the ad hoc reports. One open up here, and you'll see two listed of the names. One is the city and state. One is city and state with the invoice info. So I can still retrieve the original version unchanged, right? Before we added the invoices and the filter, and then we can also go back and retrieve the newer version that now had added the additional invoice information and the filter condition. All right, so I promised also, this is it for the extent of what I'm gonna cover within the contact list. And I'm gonna go and go to a different area of the system and then run some reports from there. Let's say I wanna do this based on projects. We're gonna go to the projects DMC, which is the managed area. And then within the area here under reports, it would be the ad hoc reports. And notice then you see how the listing of the data up here on the far left-hand side is significantly different than what we saw before. Because before we were in the context module, so the reporting was around the contact data. Right now the reporting is on the project data, but all the connected tables to projects is listed up here, right? So it is central. The reporting is central around the main table that you're reporting on. Let me give you another quick example. Let's say you want to report on payments. You go to the manage payments and assume you have the security rights to do that on the payments, if you go to ad hoc reports, you're going to see a significantly different structure because payments, when you open up the payment screen, you don't have any tabs under that. So the only fields you're going to see are the payment level fields. If you go to finances and you report on invoices, you're going to see two tables, maybe three under that, right? So you would go to invoices. Under invoices, you're going to see invoice line item details as well as payments. We also link activities and documents. Okay, and that's here. Let me remind you why that is the case. If you open up an invoice, you have documents, you have payments, but you also have linked activities. And because these are all connected to an invoice data, then you're able to report on any of them from the ad hoc reporting. So the ad hoc reporting follows the data model of whatever module you're in. And notice now these additional data elements from the different other tables are connected back to the invoices. All right, let's go and, as promised, show you a quick ad hoc report on projects. In this case, we're going to go to reports, ad hoc reports. And so let's start with projects. Let's say on the project, I want the project type. That's again a drop down. So you can select the type and or the description of the type. Let's go with type. Let's go with the project name. Let's go with the status. Anytime you have a lookup table, you can go use the code or the full description of it. In this case, I'm just going to do the status and the stage. Where's the start date? Let's scroll down. By the way, the fields are listed in the order they appear on the screen, not alphabetically, because it's much more difficult for you to engage them alphabetically. They'll be all over the place. By engage them in the same order that your eyes reads them off the data entry screen, this is a little bit more natural to the way you engage the record or the project level information. So if you go to started date, that will be here. And if you go to the completed date, that will be here. So let's go ahead and run this report. Excuse me. So again, we can clean all of those headers out as we saw before by engaging the column itself and the properties on the column. And this is the data requested, the status as well as the stage on those. If there's a started date, it will be mentioned. If there's a completed date, it will be mentioned. From here, we can, of course, like we did before, save that by clicking on the Save button, reuse it if we need to. We can pull additional data. Let's say we want to see invoice data on them now. So that's your invoice number, your invoice date, and your invoice total. Keep it simple. And when we run that, then some of the project might appear multiple times, like this project, for example, for David L.O. as a project name. Notice because it has multiple invoices on it, these are the various invoices that are connected, then they are all going to appear on this report. It's a flat report, it's a one-line report of whatever elements and whatever fields you select. All right, we're at the 28 minutes for the half-an-hour session. Thank you very much for being on the call with us today. This will be recorded and available to you to retrieve. And also, please feel free to reach out to technical support with any additional questions you have on ad hoc reporting. Thank you all very much for your time. Have a great afternoon. Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, Sam.